EU pauses retaliatory tariffs following Trump's trade U-turn.
The European Union says it is putting its retaliatory measures against the U.S. on hold after President Trump backed down first and paused his tariff plan for 90 days. The president of the European Commission said the pause is, quote, an important step towards stabilizing the global economy. European markets all solidly higher this morning. A lot of green there. Let's get right to CNN's Melissa Bell live in Paris. And, you know, the EU is basically taking a little bit of a victory lap, saying this is what happens when we stick together.
That's right, and hoping to stay unified on this. And what's interesting about their response to this 90-day pause, John, is not just that they're pausing what they were planning to do with regard to the reciprocal tariffs, which has been paused, but they're also stopping the rest of their responses. So, for instance, American tariffs on steel and aluminium of 25% remain on European companies. Europeans agreed yesterday on their response to that. They've decided to pause rolling out that response.
Keep going.
American
We're talking about the EU and tariffs
on the automobile and auto parts industry remain on Europe. For now, Europeans are also holding back. So a lot of restraint really being shown by the European Union here. They've really stopped all of the measures, both the ones they'd agreed on and the ones they were considering for now. Have a listen to what the Spanish Prime Minister had to say in response.
Nobody wins a trade war. Everybody loses. For this, the measure announced by the US administration, pending review of the exact details, seemed like an open door for negotiation, and as such to an agreement between countries.
So Europeans hopeful that negotiations can be reached, that negotiations can begin on all of these matters, but they also explain that they're going to continue to work together to look at very firm measures on both the automobile tariffs and the so-called reciprocals, so that if in 90 days, when that period comes to an end, should the American ones kick in, the Europeans should be ready to respond, and to respond very harshly, as we discussed yesterday. But for now, very much looking to see whether this pause...
Yeah. EU and China were looking at setting minimum prices on electric vehicles. So this was a major problem that, if you recall, I talked about quite extensively. Ursula von der Leyen was a year ago complaining about how China was stealing Europe's lunch money with their incredibly cheap, incredibly affordable, and very competitive electric vehicles. And if left unchecked, that the entire European manufacturing would fall apart because people would simply go and purchase Chinese vehicles, because it's impossible for European markets to compete with the affordable, accessible, and also good quality Chinese vehicles that are out there, readily available. Donald Trump, of course, in this major five-head move, blowing up international trade, has made the European Union reconsider their position, and also even forced China's hand to basically raise its prices for its electric vehicles so that it doesn't outcompete the European market too much. So this is one of those moments where I think the EU is playing ball. They're playing ball with China a little bit. EU Trade Chief Sefcovic, Chinese Commerce Minister Wang have agreed to look into setting minimum prices rather than duties for China-made EV imports. Commission spokesperson says, I did not think that they would do this. I will admit, and I still don't think that they're going to follow through on this. I think potentially this is a move by the European Union to show America that they are not afraid of China, in an effort to bring America back to the table and reconsider the way that it's treating the EU. I would be shocked if the European Union was like, actually, we're not afraid of Chinese-style governance. We like what they're doing, and we want to do it ourselves as well. That would be shocking, because that would undermine American hegemony in spectacular fashion.
Equals the beginning of negotiations.
Yeah, this is very much a case of what happens next. Melissa Bell in Paris today. Thanks so much for being with us.
Trump's reversal
I think this is a bluff.
Led to an historic surge on Wall Street yesterday. U.S. markets, though, right now, let's take a look. Well, I'm going to go this direction. They are not in surge territory, if you will. Futures are down across the board. The White House is spinning this as all a kind of big win and part of a grand strategy by President Trump. Others, though, are saying that, well, he caved, he backtracked, and he retreated on demands that only he made, and a self-inflicted wound. The nation's biggest bank, JP Morgan Chase, is still sounding the alarm, even in the face of this move by Donald Trump about a possible recession this year. CNN's Zain Asher here with us now to talk about, and there has been a lot. I mean, what happens next is where everyone's mind has to be, especially when we're looking at futures like this. I mean, what is expected now with this U-turn, backtrack, and buckling of President Trump?
So I spoke to one analyst last night who said to me, can we please have a normal day on the markets?
No.
Just one normal day, because we have earned it. Looking at where futures stand right now, the last I checked, Dow was down about 500 points or so. I'm going to guess, Kate, that today is not going to be that day.
Yeah.
Now that everyone has had an opportunity to really sort of sober up and digest what we saw yesterday, I mean, obviously everyone has gotten over the shock, positive shock, but the shock of Donald Trump pausing these tariffs for 90 days. But now that everyone's had a chance to sort of sober up, the reality is setting in. You look at the facts. We're seeing a 10% tariff still on most parts of the world.
That's still historically high.
That is
that's
still
a big
historically
deal.
high.
Yeah.
And on top of that, 25% tariff on steel,
Right.
on aluminum, on autos as well, and not to mention the minor detail of triple-digit tariffs on China, with whom we import about $400 billion worth of goods every single year. What I think is really interesting is that you look at Dow futures, they're obviously down. You contrast that with what's happening with European stocks. If you could just pull up European stocks, squarely in the green. That's obviously because they're reacting to the 90-day pause, but also the fact that Europe is saying that they're not going to retaliate anymore. What I think is also interesting is what's happening with Asia stocks. Obviously, you would anticipate that the Asian stocks who are seeing tariff relief, so we could just...
What is this? EU? I really disagree about your EU trying to take. There's almost no fear of socialism from China. Rather, it's the potential of China acting like Trump by leveraging their monopoly on certain trade goods in the EU. Yeah, I just have a much more, look, I'm Turkish, okay? And as a Turkish person, my first interaction with Western chauvinism does not come from the United States of America, but instead comes from the European Union. So as a Turkish person, I'm also a little skeptical even when I hear Euro-communism coming from the likes of Yanis Varoufakis, who I love and admire, but when I see initiatives like DM25, sometimes I'm a little bit skeptical about that sort of thing, because in my experience, in my lifetime, what I have always seen from the European Union is a commitment, not necessarily to upholding human rights and values or whatever, but a arrogant attitude surrounding their positioning as the bastion of liberal capitalism. Okay? It's just, this is how it's perceived here. All I'm saying, yes, EU is more fiscally conservative and capitalist, but the public discourse is really not about socialism. Yeah, but we're not talking about public discourse. We're talking about European elites. We're talking about governments. When we're talking about governments, the wishes of the population are irrelevant. Okay? I mean, look at the Israel situation. Do you think that the overwhelming majorities of all Western nations now have the same exact opinion on Israel as their leaders? No, of course not. Every country is turned into a Gulf state at this point, where the population literally despises Israel by pretty large numbers, as a matter of fact. But the governments are like, no, what do you mean? We love Israel. Shut the fuck up. So for me, I think I'm saying that I have a little bit of resentment for sure that clouds my judgment from time to time. But I also have, I will always maintain a healthy level of skepticism against European leadership, because at the end of the day, the European Union is a vehicle for capitalism. It is. That's what it is. That's what the European Union is there to do. And so I think that when push comes to shove, I still believe that European leadership will not decouple from the United States of America and find themselves in the hands of China. Because if China became the hegemonic power, then European capital would be undermined in that process, because they would have to restructure their own internal governance to reflect Chinese values or the Chinese economic order. They would have to, can you imagine every European country behaving like China, having command economies? I mean, that would be amazing. I would love that. I'm just saying that probably wouldn't happen. I 100% believe the EU will decouple from the US if they make any moves towards taking Greenland. That would be awesome. Not the taking over Greenland. That would not be awesome. But I do think that, I mean, this is what I've been saying. I've been saying that the EU is also a fairly large consumption engine, okay? America is as well, but the EU also is a pretty large market with a lot of purchasing power as opposed to the rest of the world, as opposed to the global south, right? That would be amazing if they did that. If they turned around and said, you know, this American dominance is over. We recognize that there's a new game in town. We've been around for much longer than the American government has. You know, you got what, 200 plus years? We've been around for thousands, and it's time. It's time to go with a new master. Now, that one can only dream of a future such as that one. Okay? One can only dream. But I do think that there's still a lot of, I still think that there's a lot of Orientalist framework here at play. And I talk to a lot of people that that are not American. Let's just put it that way. I talk to a lot of people who understand the European Union, who just, I would say, the attitude that they reflect oftentimes with what they say and what they don't say is that they are still very much fearful, like extra fearful of China. They consider China to be a really scary, like they're still afraid of Chinese dominance. Why are you talking of US, China as masters? What do you mean? Because those are the two different poles right now. Those are the two different global hegemonic superpowers. One has been the only game in town, especially post the dissolution of the USSR. And the other one has grown in spectacular fashion over the course of a very short period of time. Daily reminder that you don't know anything about the stock market. Stay in your lane, little bro. I mean, it's true. I don't. I still maintain the position that the stock market is gambling, and also money is fake. Value is so made up, especially with our global financialized economies. I mean, and I use the example of the fake tweet that caused the market to rebound for like and recover $4 trillion in value over the course of an hour, only to have it evaporate once again, as the perfect distillation of my argument. Is a perfect example. I do really believe it. Like, it's not, I mean, I said this before. It's like cryptocurrencies is like playing roulette with a blindfold on, versus the stock market is like playing blackjack, where the odds are higher in your, the odds are higher, but it's still not in your favor. And also on top of that, there's still the element of, it wasn't fake. It was just leaked early, and Trump couldn't take that. I don't think it was leaked early. I think that was something that they were presenting, and it was a brief moment where, like, I forget who it was, but one of Trump's guys went on Fox News and said, yep, no, Trump is going to do what he's going to do. And then everyone was like, oh, that's enough for us. Yes. And then they just kind of went along with it. But my point is, my point is the very fact that, like, that can create trillions of dollars worth of value instantly, and then only have it like evaporate. That in and of itself is like, it doesn't give me a lot of confidence in the stability of the stock market. I think if this was, this isn't to say that there wasn't a time and place where like the stock market was entirely speculative. That's not what I'm saying at all. I think that just like the heavily financialized global economy has turned it into this thing that operates on confidence. There's still fundamentals behind it, for sure. That's why I say it's different than like playing roulette with a blindfold. It's more so playing blackjack. There's a rule book that you can follow. There are people who can count cards. You know what I mean? So there is a way to win. And there are fundamentals. There are basic fundamentals, but like ultimately there is still probability that it's still gambling. If your market has substance, then Hasan is no threat, so stop fixing your what? What are you saying? Hasan, it's been an hour. Wrap up to both sides. I'm so confused. Stop sending me the new no way, no how banger Jay Mershon. Okay, I'm not gonna watch it right now.
Just pull up Asia as well. Asian stocks that are seeing tariff reliefs, for example, the Nikkei, up about 9%. But Kate, check this out. Even the Shanghai Composite, right? Chinese stocks also rallying despite the 125% tariff increase. And that indicates to me that Chinese investors saw what Donald Trump did yesterday and are saying to themselves, well, look, this kind of indicates that if the pain is great enough for Americans, be it investors or perhaps later consumers, that Donald Trump is willing to back down, that he is willing to negotiate. So that's why the Shanghai...
Dude. I think anyone that thinks that there's any stability from Donald Trump is on fumes at this point. They're huffing maximalist copium. They're on crack cocaine and fentanyl. They're doing a speedball with crocodile on the side. Donald Trump has demonstrated over the course of this past week alone that he is a madman, hell-bent on destruction and incredibly stubborn and does not give a yes, there are moments where he will scale back a little bit, but as demonstrated from the reality that he still tried to functionally create a trade embargo against our largest trading partner, that in and of itself is like, how do you look at that and go, yeah, no, this guy will really scale it back? It's like, no, he said he was going to kill you and then he chopped your leg off. That doesn't mean that you're in a better position overall than before he came into the room. You're legless now. He took one of your legs out. How the can you sit there and be like, well, at least he didn't kill me? Like, what do you mean? What are you talking about? You got one leg now. You got a stump. Put down the crack pipe. They're so desperate to be like, this is the problem, okay? This is the problem with like institutionalists, institution defenders, where they're like, this entire thing can't collapse, right? On the whims of a madman. Like, that can't happen. There's no way. And I think people are just going to go to their deaths saying, oh, no, there's surely something that he will respond to. See, he reacted in the way that we wanted him to. It's like, no, he didn't. He actually didn't do that at all. Did you want the art of the deal to be severing trade ties with our largest trading partner and simultaneously applying universal 10% tariffs to all of our other trading partners? Basically a de facto 10% sales tax increase, inflation, automatic inflation. This isn't, if you look at the situation, you go, well, this surely spells order. You're insane. You're an insane person. There is nothing orderly about what Donald Trump has done this past week. The only reason why you think there's order is because you want to desperately believe that there is something going on there, that he's responsive to something, anything, and not simply insane.
Shanghai Composite ended the day there in the green.
And on that, that's why there's been a lot of really interesting reporting about how China has been preparing for this for a long time and is ready to unleash even more pain as it could be a very long fight.
One of the funniest aspects of Donald Trump's madness, by the way, and transparent graft, was when he just straight up did insider trading. Like, a bunch of his homies, and we'll find out who, especially those in Congress, when they, in like 9 days, they have to reveal their trade positions. Okay. But the insanity was just right before Donald Trump made his announcement, releasing the tariffs, okay, or putting a 90-day pause, like, people started trading like crazy. That's insane. Now, the expectation there is supposed to be, well, the SEC is going to look into this and they're going to punish these people that are doing insider trading. Donald Trump maybe also could be the first person who's ever done outsider trading as well, which was when he was like, buy now on Truth Social. But if you think that the SEC is going to look into this, you're out of your dang mind, because as we know, the administrative state is completely captive to Donald Trump. There's no regulatory agency that can like go against the big dog at this point. Here, Donald Trump's audio was caught on this video explaining that his billionaire friends made billions yesterday with tariffs and stock market manipulation. The SEC needs to investigate. Yeah, good luck.
This is Charles Schwab. It's not just a company, it's actually an individual. And he made $2.5 billion today, and he made $900 million. That's not bad, because, you know, he's in financials.
I mean, I get that there's plausible deniability to what he's saying here, right? He could be like, come on, the markets are looking good. You made billions. But yeah, it's robber baron speedrun. Oh yeah. NASDAQ call volume spiked minutes before the 90-day tariff pause was announced. Not a good look at all. Yeah, I wonder. Not a good look at all. How did that happen? Chat, how did this happen? Dude, it's so funny. Like I said, it's transparent. The graph is transparent, okay? It's out there, is open, is for all to see. He did this with cryptocurrency first, where he just straight up was like, I mean, he did a crypto rug pull before the day before his inauguration. He did a cryptocurrency launch, okay? It was insane. And then what did he do? He did he's treating the stock market like it's cryptocurrency now. It's just straightforward robber baron. And it's funny because like the average American is too busy living paycheck to paycheck to recognize that they're doing this in broad daylight. Okay. And they're living paycheck to paycheck. They're too invested in the podcast sphere and think that like trans people are doing this. You know what I mean? Or they don't even think about this at all. So yeah, when Caroline Leavitt says this is the most transparent administration ever, she's right. Like they are transparently you over. And unfortunately, many people are too invested in the minutia and silliness to actually recognize that they're getting over. CoffeeZilla also covered is this market manipulation. We'll talk about that as well. We'll watch this as well. But let's keep going.
What are China's options?
Okay, so a couple of things. This time yesterday, we saw China in the same boat pretty much as the rest of the world. They had a little bit more pain inflicted on them compared to everyone else, but they were more or less in the same boat. Now they are completely isolated, and that is a strategy deliberately designed by Donald Trump to make the Chinese regret retaliating. In terms of who blinks first, whether it's going to be Donald Trump, whether it's going to be Xi Jinping, Kate, your guess is as good as mine. But what I will say is that we've talked a lot on this show about American consumers and the fact that they are going to suffer in all of this. What I think is also important to note is that the Chinese economy has been suffering for quite some time. They're dealing with slower growth, slower GDP. They have a real estate market crunch. This decision by him of how to respond to this is just as much economic as it is political. The good news, as you talked about, Xi Jinping has had time to prepare. We saw this coming, of course. But they have a controlled economy. So they have levers that they can pull in order to shield their economy from tariffs. So, for example, they're already devaluing the currency just to make their exports a little bit cheaper. And that's why we're seeing Asian markets, especially the Shanghai Composite, rallying on the hope that perhaps there is going to be a deal here.
Yeah, so who has the upper hand in this, we'll call it a chess match right now, and we will see more evidence of that today.
We'll see.
It's great to see you, Zane. Thank you so much. John.
All right, joining us now, Jason Furman, the former chair of the Council of Economic Advisors and now a professor of economic policy practice at the Harvard Kennedy School. Professor, thanks so much for being with us. So is this a case now of no harm, no foul, the tumult over?
Absolutely not. This is above and beyond what the president campaigned on doing. And at the time, most people discounted those threats and thought he'd only fulfill.
This surely this is a sign of stability and order when you got a situation where people are like, oh, no one believed his campaign promises. I mean, come on now. Just a normal political process here in the United States of America where you just go, remember when he said tariffs is the most beautiful word in the English language? No one believed him. They thought maybe it's like the 10th most beautiful word in the English language. Oh, man, we all thought he was playing around, dude. Why would you think that? Why would you think that he was playing around? This shit's so goddamn annoying. This cannot be the underlying basis of your political identity where you go, I'm just voting for this guy because of vibes. I hate this. I'm voting for this guy because of the goddamn vibes. I don't think that he's serious or sincere about his policies, or rather, I haven't really thought thoroughly what would happen if he implemented these policies. Like, not to self-glaze too much here, but I've been screaming about this for a year at this point. Since he started talking about the tariff, I was like, this is going to have a really long-lasting, damaging impact on global trade. How do you not see that? It's the same principle behind mass deportations. You can't do that because it's like, one, incredibly inhumane, two, logistically impossible to do, and three, would collapse American agriculture overnight for no reason either, by the way, for no good reason. Like, that's not a real fear that people have. It's just completely unwarranted. It improves nothing, and it's just about being a bad person, being mean for the sake of cruelty in and of itself. It pisses me off. It pisses me off when people are just like, well, I didn't think that he was going to do this. I thought he was just joking. Okay, well, I thought he was going to do this, but I didn't think the impact would be this bad. It's like, well, you're a dumbass then. What do you mean? There are plenty of people who knew that it was going to be bad. What are we talking about? What are we talking about? What the hell is this?
Part of them. Tariffs are still very, very high, and we're about to start seeing it in the real economy.
That's a long-winded way of calling Trump supporters stupid. No, Democrats have this stupid dog in them too. There's a lot of people who have this stupidity in them. And it's partially a consequence of, like, I guess, reaping the rewards of living here in the United States of America and having some semblance of stability for so long, despite unstable leadership time and time again. But like, or a lack of confidence in any form of governance actually following through on their agendas. Americans just don't know a world where a politician says they're going to do something and they follow through on it. That's what it is. And they also quite literally do not believe the impact of said legislative agenda until it happens. We saw this. We saw this with the abortion stuff. Every single politician said abortion is murder. Abortion is murder. Every single right-wing politician said abortion is murder. Abortion is murder. You can't do murder. And then, lo and behold, Roe v. Wade gets overturned after the Supreme Court justices straight up lied to the American public and said it was a super precedent. But then they reversed it. And then everyone was like, okay, some murder is cool, actually. I think we got to do some exceptions for murder. Why did they do that? Why did they all of a sudden go, it's not actually all murder. Some of the murder is awesome. I love when you do the murder, actually. Abortion is murder, but some murder is great. Like, why did they do that? It's because people immediately went, oh my God, I never really thought that if abortion was illegal, that my daughter might need to get an abortion one day. And due to a medical complication, for example, and not be able to get it and die. Like, that's up. That's really bad. I didn't think about this. It's like, why didn't you think about this? It's kind of the whole point. The whole point of why we shouldn't be setting these like erroneous standards for no reason, because it's going to be ultimately harmful. That's like, there are plenty of people who've been yelling about this for years. I've been yelling about this for years. Same with the tariffs. Same with mass deportation. Same now with the erosion of due process and the erosion of the First Amendment. These are concepts that are literally being taken away from all of us right now. And it's alarming. And I keep ringing the alarm bells. But if you ask the average American, they have no ability to understand that this is up. They have no ability to think, well, this might actually harm me down the line. Americans are always playing catch up. Liberals and Republicans alike, liberals and conservatives alike, they're always playing catch up, where they go, oh man, I voted for this guy. I think what he's doing is good. I didn't realize that it would inevitably impact me. The leopards eating my face party, always.
In the prices that families pay, in the layoffs that companies are going to be doing.
All the reporting, it was the bond market that spooked the president and forced his hand, led him to blink here. Can you explain, for all of us who may not have taken Act 10, exactly what was happening with the bond market and if those fears are still over, or fears are still existent, I should say?
Yeah, normally when you're going into a downturn, you would think that the Fed is going to cut interest rates and interest rates are going to come down. But what was really scary was that interest rates were going way up. And that's because investors around the world, reportedly some of them in Japan, but around the world and in the United States, were more nervous about the United States. They didn't trust our country. They didn't want to lend to our country. And because of that, that made interest rates go up, just like any other borrower who's not particularly creditworthy is going to end up with higher interest rates.
In the New York Times reporting that the president knows what that means. As someone who worked in real estate, when interest rates start going up, it just gets harder to do business. What do you think China sees here? We just heard from Zain Asher on this. Do you think they see this as a chance now to talk? Do they feel isolated, or do they see now that the president will blink when facing certain pressures?
The president has shown over and over again a will to blink. In his first term with China, when he would negotiate deals with them, it was largely deals about how to not escalate further.
Oh, look at that. After yesterday's pause, I was like, okay, back from the edge, but I'm still worried about recession dynamics taking hold. I didn't think that 24 hours later, we'd be back to staring at this chart of long-term yields. I mean, part of the issue is that I shouldn't even be calling it a pause. It's giga tariffs on China. Yeah, this is what I mean. Yesterday, we all looked at the market being green, and I told you this is an insane moment, okay? This is an insane moment where people are very clearly demonstrating that the stock market does not have the fundamentals baked into it, where very clearly people are just hoping on a dream. They're wish casting for stability when no semblance of stability exists. I told you this. Like, it's crazy. It's crazy to go, yeah, actually, things are fine now because we only have 10% tariffs universally and like 200% tariffs on China, our largest trading partner. That's crazy. What do you mean? What the do you mean the stock market is supposed to normalize in that process? What are you talking about? It was just a hope and a dream, dude. People were just wish casting stability. I don't know how so many intelligent people looked at the situation and went, oh, it's rebounding. Finally. Okay. There's a brief moment of respite for 90 days. It's like, no, there isn't. There literally is no respite here. Are you stupid? I mean, I guess the answer is yes. I don't know if it was stupidity, denial, or naivete. It's crazy. Jeff Stein from WAPO says, I know this is an incredibly old and boring point now, but it's remarkable watching how the ostensibly data-driven stock market is driven so heavily by vibes. Shout out to Kyla Scanlon. Nothing has changed from yesterday's surge to today's decline, other than everyone realizing the tariffs on China are now 125%, even though this was known yesterday. That's what I mean. I am not a finance guy. As Stocky correctly pointed out, I don't know about the stock market. But the one thing I do know is that it is psychotic to assume that things got better when we are trying to use a hatchet to sever ties with our largest trade partner. Are you stupid that you thought things were going to get better? It is so obvious an indication of the market's irrationality right here with what happened yesterday and all these dumb posting the green as though it's any indication of where things are going. Like, what are we talking about? You don't have to be a finance bro or even understand market fundamentals to look at the situation and go, hey guys, I know a lot of people have this unfounded confidence all of a sudden because Donald Trump at least backed away from some of the most meaningful parts of his agenda. But things are still pretty bad, don't you think? At this point, it's like they want the line to keep going up because that's all they've known. So they'll hold on to any glimmer of hope to make the line go up. It is quite literally held together by a bunch of people hallucinating an alternative reality. A quick read of Stock Trading for Dummies would empower the average educated adult with all the knowledge they need to realize how the situation is. VIX and VVIX are diverging from each other, i.e. professionals are out of the market right now and retail traders are not known as the most rational actors in the financial markets. Anyone that says this is coping. You are coping. If you think institutional traders do not also engage in this exact same irrational behavior, you are wrong. You are unimaginably wrong. First and foremost, I don't even believe that retail traders could automatically hit the panic button and cause the market to move in this direction in this decentralized manner where they all just came to the same conclusion. Okay? You cannot do that without institutions. That's number one. Number two, institutional traders also engage in the same exact irrational behavior. The exact same irrational behavior. 100%. So the reality of the matter is the market movements from yesterday to today are not just done by retail traders losing confidence or gaining confidence out of nowhere, whereas like institutional traders, actually institutions themselves like are still solidly on board with the market fundamentals and they knew that this wasn't going to happen, blah, blah, blah. No, that's not real. It's just like beyond cope. You are doing the same. I think you're doing the same, demonstrating the same naivete that I talk about all the time, which is the infallibility of institutions. The idea that like no matter what happens, there's some adults in the room and they're still holding on to the concepts that I learned in my textbooks. Okay. Asmin's chat is cheering for the 125% tariffs and wanting to go up to 400%. I love that. They're so stupid. I love that. I love how stupid Asmongold's fan base is. It's amazing. They are unironically bringing out the pitchforks to literally shove it in their own asses. There is nothing funnier to me than watching a bunch of hogs cheering on initiatives that them. Okay? It's funny. I'm sorry. It's hilarious.
Rather than to de-escalate. But now we're starting from triple-digit tariffs on China in the United States, nearly 100% tariffs on the United States in China. It's really, really hard to picture how either of our economies will be able to function, deliver job gains, deliver benefits to consumers in the midst of a very, very extreme trade war. So some which way, someone's going to need to blink, or else we're both.
This is not real. Make showers great again. Go yourself. That's not real. That's funny. Okay. If something goes down 10%, then an up percent, are you back where you started? No, because the decrease is from a bigger number. E.g., 100 minus 10 is 90. Plus 9 is 99. Huh? Down 10%, then up 10%. Then why is your e.g. not 100 minus 10, 90, plus 10, 100? Where'd the 9 come from? Oh my, what is going on? Why would it be plus 10 at that point? Does he think 10% of 90 is still 10? Does he think 10% means just 10 always? Like not 10%, but just 10, the actual number. No, I don't care. No. No. We're not doing this. I can't stare into the abyss. This is like when No. This is like when I watched videos of people being like, how can the mirror see what's behind this towel? I can't do that. I cannot do that. I am not doing that. Stop it. Stop it. There's already enough stupidity that I have to deal with on a fucking daily basis. What the There's already enough. We're laughing about people being like, hell yeah, make the tariffs 400%, big dog. Yeah, I'll just grind harder. Like, people are like, yeah, make those tariffs 400%. I'll just grind harder. Make the cost of living impossible to survive. I'll survive somehow.
Going into recession.
Talk to me about what you are looking for, I guess, in the next hours and days. Everything's moving so quickly here. There's so many twists. But what are the next shoes that could drop in your mind?
I mean, to me, it's number one, are we hearing about more new tariffs? The president has talked about tariffs on pharmaceuticals, on semiconductors, on lumber. Is he still talking about those new tariffs? Number two, that 10% on every country in the world, that's pretty high. That goes on all our friends and foes alike, with the exception of Russia, which doesn't get it. Is that there to stay, or is that part of the negotiation? And then number three, what's happening with China?